We're rolling. Welcome to the Jim and James Morning Podcast. And we have a very good friend of mine who I've known. I've known you since probably 2011.
Actually, I think 2010.
2010, yeah.
That's when we did the Diviners.
Okay,
yeah.
Because I did Rumors in 2011.
Okay.
So when I saw the Diviners 6 times, it must have been a few months before 2011. Yeah, it was 2010. So your name is Jim, and I never call you by your last name. I don't go, hey, Giordano. Giordano. I don't say, hey, Giordano, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
No, I say Jim.
Yeah.
So we have a very drastic situation here today. My cohort, my co-host, when it comes to doing this podcast, he's like my other half. He's not here tonight. And it's nothing serious, but it's some family business that came up at the last minute, and he could not be here. So this happened one other time because, Jim, let me tell you, when we started this podcast, we made a pact that we would always do it together.
Right.
So I remember there was one night that we would have scheduled a podcast because we do them on Mondays and Wednesdays usually, and it was his girl's birthday, and he said, I just can't do it on that date. And I said, you know what? We won't do it. So we have not done any episodes without each other except for one. And that's because, as you know, because you're an actor and you've been on sets and you know how it works. You never know what your call time's going to be.
Right.
You never know when they're going to wrap you. You could be waiting around for hours and hours and hours and hours before you work and to deliver 2 lines. So that's what happened to me. I was on a set. I won't talk about it right now because I'll wait until they start, releasing more information about the film. But I was working on a film, and we knew that we had Presley Tennant coming on the 25th. And we were all so excited. We had to figure out a few dates because I think it got changed or something. And then Jim's like, yeah, she's coming on the 25th. And then I said, one day I said, I just heard from my agent, I'm booked on the 25th to work on a film. And what am I going to do? Like I said, it's only a couple of lines. So I'm thinking I'll probably be there, because depending on what my call time is, we do this at 8:00 in the evening.
Right.
Well, my call time is 1:00. I said, I think I'll still be there. It's just a couple lines. I'll probably get wrapped as long as they get to my coverage. They didn't start my coverage until like 7:30 in the evening, and I was texting, and then all of a sudden, of course, my phone dies.
Yeah.
So Jim, if you watch that episode with Presley Tennant, he was saying like, should we put him on a milk carton? I think he's going to be here. Let's wait a little longer. Then he was stalling and everything, and then Presley played the guitar and sang, and then they sang Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton together. It was amazing. But eventually they gave up and they realized that I wasn't coming because I didn't get wrapped till about 10:30.
Well, does it help that my name is also Jim or James?
So
it's still the Jim and James Morning Podcast.
It really is.
I'm a different James.
You're a different Jim.
Yeah.
I was going to hijack Jim. So you want to go by James tonight?
You can call
call me anything but late for dinner.
Yeah.
And you could even
JJ.
call me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So getting to you, because you are the guest of honor. Now, if I had a guest, I started going through my phone book and calling people. I called Jeremy Luke, who will be on at one point. Yeah. He was already on. He was our first guest with Paul Tully. You know Paul? I don't know. And Daniel and some of the guys from this film Replica. It was a play. They made it into a film. So that's a great episode. That was our first episode with guests. But I would have called you to be my co-host, especially since you already have the name Jim and I'm James.
Come on.
But if it was Jeremy, then it would have been Jim and Jeremy, and I would have taken Jim. But I'll be James tonight.
Okay.
So, Jim, you have...
That's James.
I'm James, you're Jim.
Yes, okay.
I have been following your career since I saw you in a play called The Diviners, and I really want to talk about that because that was back in 2010, and I saw that play 6 times because a friend of mine was doing tech, Andrew Frew. We all love Andrew. He's going to be coming on eventually. And he was quite involved with the theater. I won't say where or what the theater is, but we did, I did hang out and watch you guys. Now, you were great. I mean, the cast was amazing, but I followed you since, and there are shows that I love that you have worked on that I want to hear about. I want, as they say, spill the tea or whatever you call it.
Okay.
So you worked on Mad Men.
I did work on Mad Men, yes.
Yeah, you were great. You were great. I loved your episode.
Thanks.
And so what was it like being on the set of a show like Mad Men?
It was pretty wonderful because not only did I get to work on it, but I got to do the table read. With the entire cast.
Wow.
Which, because a lot of times, if you have small supporting role or something,
I never have been invited to a table read.
You don't get invited to the table read. But if it's a guest star or higher, you go to the table read, so you get to meet everybody. And so
John was there.
Everybody, the entire cast was there
for the whole episode.
Yeah, for the whole episode. So you got to hear the whole episode, and then my stuff that I worked on was with Elizabeth Moss.
Yes,
and
she's so wonderful.
She was great. And we shared cheese and crackers together.
Hey.
Yeah, it was nice. No, because we're sitting there, you're sitting there and you're waiting for them to set up the lights and all that. And we're sitting next to each other, and she pulls out of her pocket. She pulls out a little package of cheese and crackers, and with the little knife to spread the cheese.
That's cute.
And she's like, cheese and crackers?
Now that tells me something about a person. That's a down-to-earth, someone that's not so pretentious.
Yeah.
Like I won't mention the celebrity's name, but I walked up to where a celebrity was. I wanted to let her know that we had a friend in common that she was on a series with.
Yeah.
And I was invited, and I was not just, some guy that walked up from the, whatever. I was, there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Not because I was involved with the show, but, this person I felt, because I'm a back east guy, and I felt like the person was being, actually had to work at being rude to me. And I waited for a break in the conversation. I just want to say a quick hello and everything. And she probably, because she didn't know who I was, and maybe because she's a woman and I'm a man, but there was an executive of a studio, and I won't name the studio, who I think I was in a pitch meeting with her before, because she really recognized me and she really said hello. But people do recognize me sometimes because, for different reasons. But, and hopefully they're good. But yeah, I felt bad about that. So it's nice to hear when someone says, "Here, you want some of my cheese and crackers?"
Yeah.
So Jim told a story because he used to drive a limo, and I think it's in it. He has a little book that has a bunch of little chapters of all these little stories, and it's really good. We got to start giving some of those away and getting them out there and showing them to people, because it's a really cool book. And he has a little chapter on Tom Sizemore, because he drove Tom, and there's one about Kaylee Cuoco, where she was eating chips or something, and she's like, "Here, you want some of these chips?" But I've met a few celebrities that were just so pretentious and so stuck up and hung up on themselves and stuff like that, where I understand it in a way, because they have to deal with a lot of people coming up to them, and a lot of people wanting to hug them, and a lot of people wanting to shake their hand, and a lot of people interrupting them at dinner. I get all that. But I also, it's refreshing to see someone that can be polite. And nice.
I've been lucky. I've never really worked with any jerks, for lack of a better word. I worked with.
But you've heard of a few.
I've heard of a few, sure.
Where they brief you like, you don't look them in the eye.
Right.
If you look them in the eye, you could get fired and thrown off set or something.
No, but
that's mostly
Elizabeth
like background
Moss
stuff,
was great. Bill Pullman. I've worked with. I did I was on a short-lived series called 1600 Penn with Bill Pullman and Jenna Elfman and Josh Gad. I don't think it I think it lasted one. I mean, I only did one episode, which was, it didn't make the final cut. But I got to work with Jenna Elfman and Bill Pullman and Josh Gad, and that was actually over 2 days.
Jim.
So it was a great day.
Jim.
Yes.
Don't make me pull up your credits because you have
a
lot of credits and you've worked on some really cool stuff. And I'm really proud to be able to say that you're a friend of mine because I really have a lot of respect for your talent, and I do admire. You worked on This Is Us.
Yeah,
It's really such a great show to work on. Jeremy worked on that a couple episodes.
Yeah, I just worked on that in February.
Yeah, because I see it right here. You were a plumber.
I was a plumber. Yeah.
So what was the This Is Us experience like?
That was the first network show that I booked post-COVID. So it was very, believe me, it was great to have the job, but I think I spent more time getting COVID tests than I did actually working on the show.
Yeah, it's been.
And then once we were on the show, it used to be when you're working on a studio show, you would you could hang out, maybe hang out on set and just watch if you're not in a scene, but post-COVID, it was like you had to stay in your trailer. They texted you. They asked you what kind of food you want. Then the food was brought to you in your trailer. Once you were brought to set, they had set up like little pods for each actor, and you had to sit in that pod until they were ready to bring you to set. And then they had, when you were on set, they had what they called, they called them mask wranglers. And you would have your own bag, and they would take your mask and put it in your bag with your name on it. And you would do the scene. And then as soon as it was over, that they would come over to you with the bag, and they would give you your mask back. And you put your mask back on, and you go sit in your pod. So in as much as it was great working on the show, it was very
hectic,
but also isolating, very literally isolating.
Like the past couple of years have been before it started opening back up.
Sure.
It's the world has changed, and I don't think it's going to go back to exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to go there, but this is really good stuff. And my son was saying that, my grandkids, when they go to school and everything, that there are little kids that have their masks on and they're terrified to take them off. Mm-hmm. We live in a world where there's a little bit more fear.
Right.
And it has this scary, connotation. Is that a good word to use? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, COVID, it's like, oh, you don't want to catch anything.
Right.
And of course, little kids and even the parents, so we're not scientists. I happen to have a friend that's a scientist who explains everything to me, and it's really refreshing to get someone's point of view who can explain every little thing he knows about vaccines and about the way the virus spreads and how long it lasts on a tabletop, or how contagious and how you get in this and this and that. So I got to ask him about monkeypox. And I did see that you worked on a couple of other things that I would love to ask you about since I got you in the hot seat here.
All right.
You worked on Two Broke Girls.
I did.
You worked on General Hospital.
I did.
And of course I want to go into iCarly. So where do you want to start?
Oh, it's your show. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's really cool that you worked on iCarly. Now, mm-hmm. I have to admit that there was a time where I was doing theater, mm-hmm. and I was running my painting company.
Right. And
I had a couple of teenage boys, and they're all grown up now, and I had parents that I was trying to help out and take care of, and it was a village to get these kids raised, and they did great. My boys are just wonderful. I can't say enough about them. So I had a painting company. It's called Quality Painting Plus, if anyone needs their house painted in Orange County, California. So we might venture up to L.A. sometimes too, but we're mostly in Orange County, California. So we were I was in Orange County, and I'd drive up to L.A. for the theater company that I was in, Theater 68, for 4 years, where I met a lot of great people like Jeremy Luke and, Denny Siegel and Katie Ziner, and the list goes on and on and on. And of course, our fearless leader, Ronnie Marmo. But every once in a while, I would take some background work because I loved being on set, and I knew it was kind of taboo if you wanted to be an actor, but I couldn't devote all my time to being a working actor at the time. Mm-hmm. So to wrap this long-ass story up, I can hear Lonnie and me saying, James, get to the point. I worked on more shows than I had realized, and I had worked on iCarly. Mm-hmm. I did this background thing, and it's kind of weird because I'm like this neighbor. I was classified neighbor, and it was called I Beat the Heat when all the air conditioning goes out in the whole building, and this one guy has this air unit, and I'm wearing shorts and this funky short sleeve shirt, and I'm standing there, and but I remember we were all in line at the top of the stairs, and Miranda was sitting there at the top of the stairs. And I was just talking to the guy behind me, and I just looked over my shoulder to him, and I said, I never worked on a kids show before. Well, Miranda, Cosgrove?
Yeah.
Miranda looked up at me,
wow,
and she gave me a look like 1,000 daggers coming at me. In other words, kids show.
Yeah. I'm
making more than most A-list, actors that are on TV shows. Like, mm-hmm, a lot of actors aren't making what she was making. Mm-hmm. I saw her on a talk. It was like David Letterman or something, and she just got a Porsche for her 18th birthday, but she flunked, mm-hmm, her driving test, stuff like that. So what was it like being on the set of iCarly? I can tell you one thing that I remember was they have multi-cameras.
Yeah.
And when the kids would say their lines, because it was mostly kids, there were some adults, wonderful adult actors. I didn't mean to. But because it's a kids show, after the kids would say the lines, the whole crew would go, ah, ha, 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 ha. They would do this fake laugh.
Right, because those are the laugh lines.
And I was thinking, why are they laughing at their own writing, or why are they laughing at their own show?
That's where they put the laughs in.
They do it purposely so they can put the laugh track.
Right.
And that was interesting to me to find out.
Yeah.
So what was your experience over there?
It was actually a lot of fun. I like working on those Nickelodeon and Disney Channel shows because I also did Wizards of Waverly Place.
Ooh.
And I also did another, I think it was a Nickelodeon show called... I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, well.
But it was another Nickelodeon show. And... Big Time Rush.
Oh, I worked on that.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah, it was back.
It was Big Time Rush. And those shows are a lot of fun to work on because even though the material might be silly or what have you. Campy. It's fun because the energy is so high because everyone is young, mm-hmm, and it's infectious, that enthusiasm, and everyone really just has a good time. There are no, at least I didn't experience any prima donnas or anything like that.
And there's not a huge amount of pressure because you're basically going to be delivering exaggerated, funny stuff.
Right.
So you just have fun with it. And if you're having fun, the audience,
because
the viewers will have fun.
Those shows, you have to know the type of show that you're doing, and those shows are over the top. They're loud, and it's almost like doing like a school play. Everyone is excited, and everyone just goes over the top. And no one is like, hey, you want to bring it down a bit?
No one's like that. Actually go bigger, yeah.
Go bigger. So
it's funny because I did a little thing where they had me as a school teacher.
Okay.
And I was out at some, whatever it was, and it was it was a soccer team, mm-hmm, a girls' soccer team. So here I am. I remember when I ate lunch, and I was sitting there. And it's just like 30 kids, all teenage girls, young girls. Mm-hmm. And I'm just sitting there just feeling so out of place, nobody to talk to. I'm sitting there eating my lunch and just, okay, well, this is a fun day. But really, there wasn't I found a couple people to talk to, but it was just a weird day because I was like the only the only guy that was a grown-up guy with a bunch of these kids. But I loved it. I mean, it was fun. I just watching them to have fun, and I love watching these the actors that are starting out, while they're kids. I did work on Big Time Rush one time where I was sitting at the table. This was another time. I guess I worked it a couple times, and one of the main guys was telling me how he got cast, and how he came out from Florida, and they gave him the gig, and they gave him, and he was really excited about how it all came about, and I loved hearing it like a insider, point of view, hearing it firsthand, because I love that. I like going to the SAG Foundation and seeing the Q&As, and first thing they ask the actor usually is, how did you get your SAG card? So, Jim, how did you get your SAG card?
Wow, that's a good question.
Some people can't remember.
No, well, first, because SAG and AFTRA used to be two separate unions.
Right.
So I know I got my AFTRA card first.
Me too.
In the early 80s. I think I got my AFTRA card in 1982. I had to pay, I think, $300.
Back then.
Yeah, in 1982. And then I got my SAG card in the early to mid.
After they voted and merged?
No. This is before they merged.
Okay.
When they were still separate unions. I think in the early 90s I got my SAG card because I had co-written and produced a cartoon pilot for the Cartoon Network. It was a joint venture between the Cartoon Network and Hanna-Barbera.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, I and my I had two comedy partners. I was part of a comedy team at the time. We did all the writing and all the voices. So we had to join SAG to do that. So that's how I got my SAG card.
Yeah. I remember there was this rumor of, that, and it wasn't a rumor that there was going to be a vote, that AFTRA and SAG were going to merge, but they were going to vote on it. So at the time, which I believe was, if I look at my SAG card, because I think they went back to the date, because I know I joined SAG in, I think it was 2009. Okay, this is before they actually merged. But in 2003, because that's what my SAG card says, they decided to use the oldest date from the union.
Right, because mine says 1982.
There you go. So I went there, and I remember I went up in the building to do the vote. Or to join. I'm sorry. To join. It cost me $1,200. You say it was like $300?
$300, yeah.
This is the squeaky seat. Now I hear the culprit because
damn it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, I joined SAG in 2003, and then they didn't merge. The vote got shot down. So now I'm a member of AFTRA. I'm paying the AFTRA dues. After a while, I let it go, and years go by. Then all of a sudden, there's a talk of a merge again. But before that, I had already so there were. I don't know what happened, but I went back to AFTRA and I said I want to be a valid member, or whatever you call it. I want to be an active member.
A member in good standing.
Yeah, member in good standing. So they said, well, write a letter, on explaining that why you haven't been paying your dues, and then we'll set something up and you can pay $89 and you're back in instead of all the back dues. So I reinstated my AFTRA, which is a boring-ass story, but the cool part is that I did become SAG before they merged.
Okay.
And becoming SAG, for anyone who doesn't know, it's the Screen Actors Guild. It's the union for actors. And it's not easy to get into. It's kind of like a little bit of a coveted group, even though it has so many members. It's just hard to get into. It's easier now because they have these new media contracts to where you can throw a short film together and submit some paperwork, and as long as you have one SAG actor, you can Taft-Hartley all your friends and get them to to go. Oh boy, SAG is not going to be happy with me for telling this and saying this information.
You didn't hear that.
Yeah, we might have to edit this out. Now I'm getting canceled by SAG.
Forget everything you just heard.
So that was my thing. What happened with me is I worked on this movie called Rocky and Bullwinkle, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they needed a cop. And it was a specialty type thing where I was going to be in a line of cops, and I was going to be the cop from Illinois, and they had Ohio and Cincinnati, whatever, all these different states. And John Goodman was standing next to me in the movie, but they CGI'd him in. That's a little movie magic for those of you who don't know that they do that. So Whoopi Goldberg was the judge in the movie, and Piper Palabro, who was in Yellowstone. Yeah, however you say it. Yeah. And I remember she walked by me, and I opened the door for her, and she says, "Thank you, sir." And I wasn't that much older than her. I was a lot younger, and I didn't feel like I was, I felt old when she called me sir. But anyway, so I worked 2 days on that. I got 2 SAG vouchers, and I'd forgotten about them. I lost them or whatever. So all of a sudden, years later, I'm working on this show called CSI Miami. And the wardrobe woman, we were talking, and she remembered me. So something came up with a friend of hers that was working on NCIS, and she told the friend was saying, "Yeah, I'm looking for somebody about this size." And she goes, "I remember this guy, cool guy. I talked to him. He's the sizes you're looking for. Here's his number." So I get this call, hey, they need you to be a body double. I played a dead body. I actually played a few other things because they needed hand double, photo double, all these different things, but mostly the dead body. And so I got a 3rd union voucher. And someone told me, "Hey, man, didn't you work on, And I go, "That was so long ago. I don't even know what happened. I can't find them. I thought I had to physically have them." They said, "No, bro, just call SAG, and they have them in the computer." So I called SAG, and they go, "Well, we're going to have to look for them. We're going to have to dig them up." They got back to me. They found them. The 2 union vouchers were in the computer, and then I had the 3rd one from NCIS, so it qualified me to join SAG. And I got to tell you, it was like $2,800 or over $3,000 to join. I think it was like $2,800 to join, and it's like $3,500 now, and they'll let you make payments.
I can't remember what I paid.
Oof, it's a lot
in the early 90s.
Yeah,
I
it was
can't
a lot less
remember what it was,
then.
but I think it just came out of our paycheck for the cartoon. I don't know.
I guess that's called Taft-Hartley.
Yeah.
When they'll work you, but you'll see it. They'll take it out of your paycheck.
They called it a must join.
Yeah, must join.
You're a must join. Right?
And the consensus is like if you're a must join and you don't have to,
you don't
wait, because if you're starting out in the business,
there's so
you
much
want to get
non-union
non-union so you get your credits built up and you can make money.
Yeah.
Now, some of these jobs, I knew an actor that was going out all the time, and he said, "Man, they're sending me out 3-4 times a week, but it's for like $250 jobs, $300 jobs, $600 jobs." And he says, "I just don't want to waste my time because most of them you don't get." Unless it's over $600 or something. Well, a union gig, I don't think there's anything. I mean, I don't know what the new contracts are, but they're pretty. Some of them are meager.
Well, some of these new media, they're SAG contracts, but you're working for $125 a day.
Right. I remember there was this guy I was working on, Citizen Jane, and Sean Patrick Flannery was on that, and Ali Sheedy. And I talked to this old timer who was the juror. I was a juror, but he was the head juror, and he had lines, and he delivered them. And we were out there talking. "I've been doing this a long time." He says, "I've been in this thing for years. I'm 40 years in." And he goes, "Let me tell you, young guys," and I'm about 40. And he's looking at me. "Let me tell you, young guys, you better read the bylaws. You better keep up on this stuff because they'll screw you every chance they get. You got to vote. You got to fight for your rights and stuff." So the Screen Actors Guild, the union, the Teamsters, all those people, they're very, very serious about their contracts, their work, their wages and stuff. I remember I was being taken from base camp to the set, and I'm talking to somebody, and I'm joking around, and I'm saying, "Man, the food's so good. I really enjoy it." Because I was doing it once in a great while because I had a painting company. I was making my money.
So it was special.
Yeah, it was fun. It was special. I wasn't there for the money. Matter of fact, after about a day of doing it, I was so bored. I couldn't wait to get back to painting where I was making real money.
Yeah.
And while I was there, all you're doing is sitting around and hanging out. So I was on the phone doing deals and calling and customers and my guys at the job and this and that, ordering material and all kinds of stuff, lining up bids and everything. It was just, I was there just for the experience of it all. So I'm talking to this guy while we're driving in this van. The Teamster guy's driving the white van. There's that squeak again. And I said this thing tongue in cheek. I said, man, if they don't know this, but I'd probably do it for free, you know. And he just about slammed on the brakes when we came to a light. I mean, I'm not kidding. He stopped short. He turned around. He looked at me. He looked me dead in the eye, and he goes, don't you ever say that. We fought for these wages. We fought for these. You don't know what the Teamsters went through. You don't know what, people went through in the union and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, whoa.
Well, you were coming from a completely different place. Actually, you were coming from a guy who you were there because you loved doing it, and it was fun and it was interesting, but your life didn't depend on it. You had a successful business.
Right. Now, if it was my painting company and somebody said something like, we'll do that for free, I would kick my guy and probably, beat the hell out of him behind the, or whatever. But so I do now. That's kind of a different way of looking at it, because I always just kind of like brushed it off and didn't think much of it. I just thought it was kind of the irony of it all.
Because because most everybody else, it's like, oh my God, I really need this job, and this is so important to me, and you literally have something to fall back on.
Right. And not only that, to me, being on a set where Clint Eastwood is directing, or Martin Scorsese is directing Leonardo DiCaprio, to me, that was an education. I mean, I'm watching this go down, and I'm watching the way they're communicating with each other, and I'm watching Leo, how intense and how focused and how, just when he turned it on and was acting. For a young guy, and I was fairly young back then. I was sometimes I'm looking back, some of these I was in my 20s. It was like an acting class, just watching and learning if you pay attention. But I don't recommend doing a lot of background work.
No.
I'd rather do theater. I'd rather be in an acting class. I'd rather be doing showcases. I'd rather be grinding it out to get those one or two lines, because I didn't know any better when I was a little younger, and I did more of the background work than I cared to.
I think I did background work twice.
That's about what you should do, is a handful of times.
I think once in the 80s, I was on, it was some television show. I can't remember what it was called now. And, it was in New York. And it was a party scene at the opening of an art gallery or something, and I was wearing this black jacket, and one of the PAs had me by the lapel, and she said to the assistant director, I suppose, I can't remember who, she goes, "Where do you want this one?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like a piece of meat.
There's a real lack of respect. I mean, there's ongoing jokes, like they call them meat puppets, human furniture.
Yeah. And I said, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
I'm never doing this again. But I did do it one more time. But it was a great experience. It was an extra on a commercial, on a FedEx commercial, which went into Golden Time.
Oh, oof.
Golden Time is... You've been on the set for so long, like 14
hours. Oh, no. Yeah, well, for the people that don't know.
For like 14 hours, 16 hours, I think it was. And at Golden Time, you start making
your daily wage per hour. So if you're making $360 a day for being on a commercial, which the commercials pay well, even for the background, you start getting that per hour. Now, wait till you hear this.
Wait.
Okay,
I walked away. After that, I walked away with $2,500.
There you go.
From an extra, which
is
unheard of.
Right. That was back in the day.
That was a good experience.
So a friend of mine was on some Jenny Craig commercials, and it was a 5-spot, which means that they did 5 different commercials with Jason Alexander and Valerie Bertinelli, 5 different commercials in one day. So you get 5 times, and I don't think they went into Golden Time, but they did have some overtime and everything. The pay was really nice. So there are people that are grinding it out, and they just want to be background, and they just want to do background, especially on commercials, and they want to do that. It's not for everybody. If you're serious about being an actor, I would say don't do a lot of background. A little bit of it to get your feet wet, to get out there, to see how, hitting your mark, and you're not going to be hitting your mark, but you're going to be watching other people. Sometimes they'll tell you. One time I remember I was walking, and there was a big cable there,
Yeah.
which people don't see. And I had to step over it. And I wasn't ready when I first started doing that kind of thing. So I was walking across, and I kind of had a little hitch in my step when I stepped over the cable. And they came and told me, hey, anticipate that that's there. You don't look down at it, but just peripheral vision, and walk naturally and make sure you step over it without looking like you're tripping over something, because
Right.
we don't want that. But I had some great experiences.
Yeah.
I met some great people, and I really appreciated being on some of these great films and great TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I understand you are working on something, or you have something that you want to tell me about.
I've been back in 2019. I hooked up with some guys who were like creating content for the there's that word, content.
Yeah. Was it TikTok
for
or
the for the internet, stuff on YouTube and Facebook and so forth and so on.
Uh-huh.
And they called themselves They, They. And so they contacted me and they said, would you like to, make some videos for us, So I'm like, okay. I wasn't doing anything. So they had found this like warehouse, which they made into a makeshift studio.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we went into the studio, and this is 2019, and we shot some experimental stuff.
Okay.
It's
getting more interesting.
yeah,
Now I'm starting to wonder, what is this experimental
there's
stuff?
a lot of it's a lot of green screen and blue screen stuff, and I wear a green suit in it so they could do stuff on my suit, on my actual
Did
body.
it have all those like things?
No.
Okay, it wasn't.
I have
that-
done that though.
Oh, you have?
I did a game called LA Noir,
Uh-huh.
and where I had to do all that.
That's interesting stuff.
That was really crazy. But this, we basically went in, and for 2 days we improvised a lot of stuff. And it was a thing where they said, okay, you think you're going on an audition, so you're walking in, and you'll just call us Mr. They. I'm like, okay, Mr. They. I'm like, hi, Mr. They. I'm here for this audition. Cool. And all of a sudden, over the 2 days, a lot of really weird stuff happened to me, and it's like I'm in some kind of internet hell. I'm in this world now, this world of they. So we shot like 4 or 5 experimental things, and then a few months back, they said, let's do more, because we were going to do more, then COVID hit. Couldn't do anything. So after COVID, things started to clear up. They said, let's go back into the warehouse and do some more. And this time they had taken the time. They really
went all out.
Yeah, heavily scripted. Instead of improvising, there's still improvisation in it, but it's heavily scripted. And we went in, and it's kind of like I'm still stuck in this world with the green suit, but they've given me my own show.
Ah.
And it's called the James Giordano Show.
Wow. Hey, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. And it's really weird, and it's very visual, and it's kind of like looking at a painting, I suppose. It's kind of like you look at this thing and you get what you want from it. I think in the long run, it's a commentary on content, internet content, and
it's interesting concept.
Influencers and things like that. But it's very avant-garde. It's very performance art, I would say.
Very nice.
And some other actors joined me this time around. And
where can we see this?
Well, these new episodes. The first episode it's in post right now, but I do believe that the first episode of the James Giordano Show, within the world of they, will be out at the end of this month.
On
And
what platform?
You could see it on. You go to YouTube.
Okay.
And put their mantra is they, content, bottom text. How do I tag myself? So I think if you just
I can't wait to subscribe to that.
So I think if you just type in they, content, bottom text.
Yeah, you'll get it.
You'll get it.
But the word bottom text.
Yeah.
Okay.
And content.
Yeah. You put those together.
Yeah.
And something's going to come up.
And you'll see on their site there, lots of little short things, but you'll see all of the stuff, the original stuff that we shot, which is called, the stuff we shot in 2019 is called Giordano content. So under if you go to Giordano content.
If you subscribe, you'll probably see all that stuff.
Yeah, you'll see all that stuff when you go into their playlists. But also they have a page on Facebook, so you could see stuff there.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
And,
it kind of reminds me almost like a Squid Games or like something like the Joker. I don't know why I'm getting this. It's just different, and it's like a little on the bizarre side.
It's very bizarre. I mean, some people will look at it and say, "What the F is that?"
Yeah. You can say fuck.
Okay, then what the fuck is that? People say the same. Because I worked with David Lynch. I did. I did the new. The reboot of Twin Peaks for Showtime.
I saw that on your IMDb.
And a lot of it's the same thing. There are people who revere David Lynch, and then there are people going, "What the hell is that? I have no idea what."
And then there are people who's David Lynch? Look him up. He was amazing.
Absolutely.
I believe. Oh man, I don't want to get this wrong, but was it Mulholland Drive? Was David Lynch? No. It was. Thank God. I'm not canceled for David Lynch fans. But what was the David Lynch experience like? As we wrap up, I want to hit a couple of bullet points on some things that I want to hit on.
Yeah, working. I was doing a play in here at somewhere in Hollywood.
Yeah,
and his casting director saw me in this play, and they called me in. And he doesn't have actors audition. He just has Johanna Ray interviews us. And then he decides whether he wants to work with you.
That's amazing.
So I went in, and she interviewed me, and 2 weeks later, they said, "You want to work on Twin Peaks?" I said,
"He's still doing it."
Yeah. And so it was like, I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was going to see this really bizarre guy dressed all in black, and he was going to be mysterious,
kind of like
scary.
a Wes Craven or something.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He was like, I don't know. It was like working with your favorite uncle.
It's the same thing when I got on set with Clint Eastwood a couple of times. I heard, he shoots in 6 hours what it takes 10 hours for other directors to shoot. So I'm thinking like Dirty Harry, like, come on, let's get this going. Let's do this. Let's get it. Let's set it up. Let's set that other thing up. Nothing like that. He had a little pep in it, like a little, the way he walked. He was chipper, and he would whistle and hey folks, let's do this again, but it was 1 or 2 takes. Let's roll on the rehearsal without telling people. And then we're moving on. Wait, that was a rehearsal.
Right.
He was just so cool and so mellow and so nice.
That's great.
And he had a little, like, just a little, like, a rhythm in his step and his walk. It was nothing like what I thought it was going to be like because he was such a great director. No, he's a great director.
He knows exactly what he wants.
He uses finesse.
Right. And that's just like David Lynch. David Lynch knows exactly what he wants. And people would say, "Now, David, don't you think?" And he'd be like, "No, it's fine. It's fine." He knows exactly what he wants.
But look David Lynch up. And where can we find you on Instagram? What's your handle on
Instagram is the real Mr. Giordano.
Okay.
Or real Mr. Giordano.
And where else are you? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel. The They stuff is also there.
Okay.
And I think it's just James Giordano.
All right. Well, we'll be sharing stuff and everything.
Yeah.
And there's one more question. The question that I want to end on, unless you have a burning desire for anything else. Tell me a little bit about your training, because I saw you. You're incredible on stage with theater. I've seen you on the screen with these incredible shows, these great shows, hit shows like iCarly, Mad Men, Twin Peaks, and the list goes on. This Is Us. But where did you start out with your training? Did you have some formal training?
Yeah, I went to as soon as I graduated high school, I went and I auditioned for Juilliard, and didn't get in because I had no idea what I was doing.
Balls.
Yeah, I had balls. I said I'm going to go to Juilliard, so I went. I memorized a monologue and went in. I was probably terrible, and they said no thanks.
But still, to be able to have that experience.
I got on a bus and I went down to Greenwich Village, and I went to the Herbert Berghoff studio, HB Studios.
Very famous.
Yeah. And down on Bank Street in Greenwich Village. And I studied there for 2 years. And then I also studied privately for a while. And then I don't think I studied for many, many, many years. And then recently I met this woman, Susan Giosa, who works out of the Santa Monica Playhouse.
Oh, I was just over there. I did a play over there.
Oh, okay. And
about Roe versus Wade.
Oh, cool.
I played like 7 parts.
Yeah. So I worked with Susan Giosa for a while, and she's a lot of fun and intense, and so that's mainly most of the training. Of course, then
on the job,
doing a lot of improvisation too. I did when I first came out here. I was at Acme Comedy Theater.
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah, so I spent a couple of years there.
Okay.
So that was a great.
Well,
so that
sure
helped
has paid off.
Yeah. Plus, I did a lot of sketch comedy and things like that. So yeah.
Well, I know you're auditioning all the time. You're working and stuff. So you're going to come back, right? So we can catch up with you. Absolutely. Next time we have a guest and Jim can't make it, I'm going to need a Jim.
Yeah.
So Jim and James in the Morning Podcast. We'll see you when we see you. Thanks for subscribing. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
We have a great show for you tonight. I've been in this business for quite a while. You might remember me as Uncle Carmine from iCarly, or that cop from Twin Peaks, or Delivery Guy from Two Broke Girls, or as James Giordano from the first 433-126E-127 episodes of The James Giordano Show.